The Blue Beetle apologetics have been far more interesting than the movie itself. I didn't see it or anything like that. No, this isn't going to be a comprehensive review of Warner Brothers, or rather the DCEU. The character's supposed to go over to James Gunn. Regardless, it's not going to be anything like that. I listened to a couple of reviews on it, and it sounds like, in the words of the great Mahler, he said that even if you haven't seen this film, you've already seen it and you hate it. It sounds like a completely contrived hunk of crap, and judging by the numbers, the weirdly inflated numbers and fleeting numbers as well, chances are you didn't see it either. But why I wanted to make this video is because, wow, okay, for all of the bombs that have come out in the theaters this year, are we going to run down a list of them? Specifically for DC? Well, obviously, you had, Shazam. Black Adam was at the end of last year, but that was probably their high water mark when he had The Rock tweeting out, "No, don't worry, bro, it broke even." It's like, nah, not if you actually look at the numbers, but you've got this weird mental gymnastics formula that somehow makes it look like, no, it's actually fine and it's great, and eventually I'll reprise my role as Black Adam. Sure you will, pal. But The Flash losing hundreds of millions of dollars. At least Blue Beetle only cost, a bag of hot chips in order to make, so it's not going to lose that much money because, well, if it gets up to 100, because I think it costs 95 or 100 and some odd million dollars to make, so yeah, it might end up making back its totals, but chances are $25 million is about where it's going to end up. But yeah, as Variety says, Blue Beetle stumbles with $25 million debut, ends Barbie's 4-week streak. Barely. Just barely, actually. So, Blue Beetle has dethroned Barbie at the domestic box office. The latest DC superhero flop film. Adventure claimed #1 spot despite a softer than expected debut of $25.4 million. But like I said, inflated numbers because that was an estimate. As you can see, yes, this article was posted on Sunday in the morning, so they were just simply going on estimates, but we got the hard facts this time around from Box Office Mojo showing that Blue Beetle, it did in fact win the day, and it did in fact beat out Barbie, Oppenheimer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which weekend over weekend completely and totally died, which, good for that. Terrible, awful character designs. Ugh. Barely sneaking out Barbie, which has ridiculous legs. Not Margot Robbie. I'm talking about the film itself. That old bitch can just go ahead and, work on her next overrated project. But yeah, just barely beats it out. But 25 even. Oh, that's not quite close to the extra $400,000 that you wanted to tag on there and hope nobody would notice. But then we also have the Monday numbers, and yeah, as you can see, Barbie's already taken it back over. So that quick little blip that knocked Barbie off of its reign for the rest of the summer, yeah, Blue Beetle already. Oh, I guess we found the additional $400,000. It's, well, what's separating the two back in the box office. Sucks to suck, I guess. At the international box office, Blue Beetle starring Zolo Maraduena as an alien symbiote. Yeah, takes all your favorite aspects of Spider-Man, Iron Man, Cheech and Chong, rolls everything together, just shits out a film. Oh yeah, and Susan Sarandon phones in her performances. We're so lucky to only have the only white person there be Susan Sarandon, and she's the bad guy, and she completely and totally phones it in. That's a consistent across all of the reviews that you're seeing, that she just gives the most half-ass of Hillary Clinton impersonations in a role. Just terrible, atrocious shit. But yes, it added $18 million in 63 international markets, with $43 million globally. That is one of the softest starts in history of the DC cinematic universe. Yes, in fact, it is the second weakest opening, only behind, check this one out, Wonder Woman in 1984. So Wonder Woman 2, but you have to cast your mind back. When did Wonder Woman 2 end up getting released into theaters? In late 2020? Yeah, no, not late 2021, not late 2022, late 2020 with the day and date release that also came out on, at the time, HBO Max. So yeah, you only beat a film that opened up in like a handful of theaters and was mostly purchasable on streaming services. So this thing absolutely, totally flopped. Like, everybody knew it would, but no, trust me guys, this is going to be a new take on the genre, it's going to be great, and hey Mexicans, it's made for you. And like, the fuck are you doing, you weirdos? And then you had the apologetics start to roll out on Monday. Guys, it was always supposed to be a flop. I have no idea what you're talking about. Blue Beetle was always going to struggle at the box office, care of Digital Spy and Ian Sandwell. Here's an easy narrative stemming from Blue Beetle topping the US box office of the softer than expected debut. Not really. This is supposed to be superheroes, and everybody loves superheroes, right? Look at the last 10 years. Woo! For some, the latest DC flop. Oh, right. Yeah, DC films absolutely and totally suck. There hasn't been one that's been good since, 2008 with The Dark Knight? Everybody tricked themselves into thinking that The Dark Knight Rises was actually tolerable. After the studio's other 2023 release, Shazam! Fury of the Gods and The Floosh both suffered at the box office. But no, guys, it got Michael Keaton in The Flash and the Shazam film you guys like, because you like the first one, right? It really can't... It can't really be superhero fatigue, as yes, you can go ahead and cherry pick 2 examples out of the litany of other flops that are out there. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Okay, by that justification, the DCEU, right, that's James Gunn's reprisal. That was his swan song at Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so that'll just prove that, yeah, no, he's definitely going to carry that momentum into the DCU in 2 years' time. And Across the Spider-Verse, well, that's an animated feature, and prior to Barbie hitting the theaters, the #1 film of 2023 was an animated feature in Super Mario Brothers. So, okay, and there's a couple of other things that are in there as well. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was supposed to be a send-off for the characters of a well-established sub-franchise and a greater overarching franchise, and probably the last one, because I've broken this down a couple of different times in a few previous videos. There has been a long, consistent track record, all of Stage 4 for Marvel. It just absolute dud after absolute dud. The only bright spot and a reason that Across the Spider-Verse did so well was because No Way Home, what was that? A Spider-Man film broke $1 billion. And that was mostly due to, Sony having control over the script, a lot of the production elements, and Disney, receiving very little profit from the otherwise overwhelmingly profitable film. So yeah, you had big names attached to that. The Spider-Man moniker, even though it's Miles Morales. And it didn't end up doing as well as the first one, I don't think. Maybe it did. It really doesn't much matter, man. I'm not watching any of that crap. So yeah, there's reasons that those ones succeeded, whereas Shazam, like the first one only made 400 or 600 million. Sorry, I don't want to undersell the first one, which is forgettable as it is. But yeah, James Gunn already poisoned the well in a video that the good folks over on Rumble have already seen, but the folks over on YouTube, you'll eventually see in a very short period of time. I went over why the DCU is going to absolutely die on the vine because, James Gunn already poisoned the well. But no, The Flash, hey, remember guys, for as much good faith as James Gunn is going to carry over for Warner Brothers with Guardians of the Galaxy, he put all of his stock in saying that The Flash is not just the best DC superhero film of all time. It's the best superhero film that you're likely to ever see. Even if you went and checked that abomination out, what do you remember from it? Exactly. But as much as labeling a movie a flop after its opening weekend is jumping the gun, no, we got a couple of additional days, and this guy should have waited to publish on this article until the Monday dailies came out and went, for fuck's sake, it's a total disaster. Yeah, after all, look at Elemental crossing $450 million after a slow start. Yeah, it's still not going to break even. I don't know what to tell you. If you think that that's fantastic, look at the production budget and realize that, that's not great. It is also reductive in Blue Beetle's case. But yeah, okay. Calling a movie a flop after an opening weekend, you could do the exact same thing with Indiana Jones. There was no run back story on that one, or Lightyear from last year. Come on, we got example after example, but this person out here wants to go ahead and cherry pick all of the exceptions. Come on now. Blue Beetle, in Blue Beetle's case, the wider context of its release has to be considered. Okay, here we go. Blue Beetle might eventually be objectively labeled a box office flop. Yeah, and people who have watched it was like, wow, that's going to be forgettable. It doesn't rebound or sustain a long run, and it's also likely never really stood a chance in the first place. See, it was designed to fail. Unlike fellow DC releases in 2023, Blue Beetle didn't have to overcome poor reviews. Sorry, what? No, that's supposed to work in its favor and then lead to better reception at the box office. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which again, shout out to Mahler for putting out that 6-hour-long video. I would highly recommend that. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the video. It's a long boy. It's 6 hours long, for Christ's sakes. Gotta watch that shit in chunks. I ain't got that much time, but it's really good, and it really does break down the thought process, or lack thereof, in Hollywood, especially in the writer's room and in the director's chair, and just really, really paints a grim picture for the future of the MCU. Highly recommend it, along with the rest of his work. I can't recommend it enough. It's currently, oh yes, right, going back to Blue Beetle here for a second, current Rotten Tomatoes score of 76 is solid, if unremarkable, like the rest of the film. At best, but at worst, it's just a bungled mess of absolute laughable proportions. There's a lot of positivity and critical response, but it didn't end up translating to any sort of box office success, which ultimately, at the end of the day, these companies put out films hoping to turn a profit. This isn't a charity, folks. In different circumstances, it's a kind of a warm reaction that just should have led to a bigger opening numbers, but it didn't. You had the director, Manuel Ferreira, or I don't know, Nacho Libre, or whatever his fucking name was, go out there and start to attack fans online, or critics online as well, ended up painting it just an abysmal picture. Oh, Angel Manuel Soto. Normally, when you have a flop at the box office like this, and you have a high-powered studio behind you, normally the go-to after this is you didn't want to go see it because you all are racist. This is a Mexican film, and you hillbillies can't go ahead and resonate with a culture that isn't your own. For shame, for shame, for shame. We've seen that time and time again. Can't really play the sexist card because, well, this is the one superhero that didn't get gender swapped, surprisingly enough. But big impetus for me making this video right here was just the absolute buck-ass wild take from CEO David Zaslav, okay? Blue Beetle, Warner Brothers boss, blames Hurricane Hilary, a little rainstorm running up the West Coast, for disappointing box office turnout. How does that explain the $18 million made worldwide? Just riddle me that for a second. I got to hear about this, because this is just my expression exactly. It's unfortunate that DC movies has been suffering from poor box office numbers lately. Black Adam made nearly $400 million at the box office, still wasn't enough to guarantee a sequel. In fact, it just ended up shelving the project in general. Also, the Shazam franchise's future is in jeopardy. Oh, no, it's not in jeopardy. It's certain. It's not happening. Since the sequel made only $30 million at the opening weekend box office. $30.5 million. And remember, that was a cataclysmic failure. Blue Beetle, what did it make? Oh, 25. Right. Okay. When it was expected to make $35 to $40 million. The latest DC movie, Blue Beetle, has sadly joined the ranks of poor box office numbers, but Warner Brothers boss blames Tropical Storm Hilary. Yeah, that made the parking lot of Dodger Stadium a little bit wet to wash away all the sodomites and fecal matter. CBS News says that Tropical Storm Hilary, in the two places that it made landfall, haven't heard any, death totals like that. If you're going to just tell me that the Maui wildfires ended up contributing to poor box office results, that would be at least a little bit more believable. But yeah, there was some rain that ended up running up the West Coast. It ended up cleaning up San Francisco a little bit better than any of the Democrats could have hoped to, but that ended up contributing to low box offices. Okay. With Los Angeles being the top market for DC's Blue Beetle. Unbelievable. But if you were telling a Hispanic tale, why didn't it do well? Why didn't places where there's been Californication for the better part of a decade, in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Austin, Texas, why didn't they pick up the slack? No, guys. It was always going to be a Los Angeles heavy film. Unbelievable. Just the cope on this is fucking ridiculous. With Los Angeles, yes, being the top market, they were hit with a series of rain, mudslides, floods, and rock slides during the movie's opening weekend. Yeah, I've seen the rain. Didn't see anything about mudslides or floods or rock slides, but that's also very common towards the end of summer, and nobody ever uses that as an excuse to cover up for a bomb in the theaters. Given all the weather turmoil the state has faced, Warner Brothers Studio posted a response that's circulating on Twitter that they blame the storm for why Blue Beetle didn't have a big box office opening. No, you made a shit film in a long series of shit films, and now, don't worry guys, they'll just go ahead and they'll sit out the rest of the summer and the fall, and then they'll be coming back around Christmas with their next surefire hit. What is it again? Oh, Aquaman 2. Oh, for fuck's sakes. And with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.